Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'd like to thank all of the witnesses who are here today. While there are different issues that we face in New England than you all have in the Gulf, I think our goal is the same, and that is to see a well-managed fishing stock and a robust industry for fishing in the United States, whether it's commercial or for private fishermen. I want to particularly thank Jamie Hayward and Josh Wiersma for being here. They, as you heard in Senator Vitter's introduction, they have been involved in all aspects of the fishing industry in New England, and so you can bring that experience and understanding to today's testimony. And I want to start with you, Mr. Hayward, because you talked about the range of fishery management decisions over the past several years that have really effectively decimated New Hampshire's fishing industry. Can you talk more about why small fishermen are affected more than some of the larger fishing operations, and why it's a particular issue for New Hampshire and for some other states that have our kind of fishing?
Certainly. It boils down to the smaller vessels aren't out there. Like you said earlier, the cost of the monitoring per day is the same on each vessel. But the amount of dollars that a vessel is targeting certainly isn't the same between a small vessel and a larger vessel. So in a lot of cases, when the smaller guy is paying a larger percentage of his income for the monitoring program, it's basically just, it has to do with how far from shore you go. It has to do with the amount of horsepower you have in your boat, your pretty much your fishing capacity, what your vessel and your crew are capable of.
And you all spoke to the need to move towards an electronic monitoring system, and I think that's an issue in the Gulf as well. I wonder, Dr. Wiersma, if you could talk more about what NOAA needs to do and how we in Congress could urge that more rapid movement to that electronic monitoring system.
Sure. Thank you for the question, Senator Shaheen. I think from my experience working with the agency, it's a matter of really taking strong leadership on this position and stop delaying the implementation timeframe. There's been pilot projects that have been ongoing since early 2009, yielding enough data that at this critical time where the fleet, needs these options for them to be able to understand what their best business plan is moving forward, the option to have electronic monitoring, electronic reporting is critical. And so we were on track to approve that actually this year. And again, the agency seemed to get cold feet and decided that they just didn't have enough information yet. And so there will be that option available to a limited amount of boats next year. I believe there's 20 boats that are going to be participating under an exempted fisheries permit. But that's not the same, and it doesn't provide the broad opportunity for the entire fleet.
So, as I have the opportunity to question Secretary Pritzker about this issue, what would you all like for me to say to her about what the impact of the Department of Commerce and NOAA's delay in moving to this system means for people on the ground who are trying to keep their businesses alive? And I would ask either or both of you.
I'll answer saying that, time is crucial, and at the road we're headed down right now is not a good one. It's pretty much the end is near, and if things aren't changed soon, at least to some extent, that the fleet's going to look a lot different in 36 months. I can assure you of that.
Will we still have any fishing in New Hampshire if we don't see some changes in NOAA's decision in some of these areas?
What will happen is the infrastructure will be gone, and when that's gone, then the boats will leave. The ones that want to remain, they'll be forced out because they'll have no place to offload or even market to sell.
Dr. Wiersma, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think Jamie really hit the nail on the head. It's a matter of presenting these options in a timely manner to the fleet, and I think I like to describe it as the fleet has kind of been in a state of limbo for the last year with the uncertainty about, both the switch to the at-sea monitoring program, but also about really a lack of opportunity, for them to modernize their boats, to be able to adapt new technologies, be able to participate directly in the science through those programs. I think it really comes down to, giving fishermen these opportunities and, doing so in a timely manner with strong leadership.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Shaheen, do you have anything else?
I do, actually, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to go back, Josh, to two of the issues that you raised in your testimony and try and better understand how you envision it working. The first was around collaborative research. You talked about what NOAA could do that would be more helpful to the industry, and one of the things you mentioned was more collaborative research. Give me more details about how you envision that working.
Sure. Thank you for the for the question, Senator Shaheen. So collaborative research is actually near and dear to my heart. I completed my PhD looking at the value of collaborative research to New England fishermen. And one of the things that I found during my research was that not only does collaborative research produce this wealth of data that currently isn't available for science, but it also benefits the fleet because they gain the knowledge and information and understanding about what science is, what its objectives are, and how they can add to that process. And so traditionally, collaborative research is kind of funded almost ad hoc, right? 10 years ago was probably the heyday, and a lot of times it comes with different types of disaster declarations or other types of immediate short-term thinking, which leads to very short-term research projects, like 2-year projects, and then the data just doesn't get used, it gets put on the shelf. The industry had, for a time, a very robust industry-based trawl survey that was running side by side with a government trawl survey. That was abandoned about 5 years ago. The state of Massachusetts is just thinking about how they can get that research project up and running again. And it's really because of the demand from the industry to say, listen, we want fisheries-dependent information used in the stock assessment process. We think we have a lot to contribute for those purposes. And prioritizing collaborative research, is a priority of the Magnuson-Stevens Act. It should be a priority of NOAA Fisheries, and it should be implemented in a way that's formal and has enough process for that data that is collected to then be flowed into management.
So what you're suggesting is that we really need some funding that will allow NOAA to work with the industry in putting together the research in particular areas where we need to get more information about what's happening and to be very directive about that.
That's true, and also to allow the industry to prioritize what those research agendas are. And I think that's also part of the problem is that typically it's been this top-down driven process where research priorities come from the top, and they might not necessarily coincide with what the fishing industry feels like are the research priorities they'd like to address.
So give me an example.
So as an example, the government typically has focused a lot on conservation gear research. And while some of those methods have been very successful, like this haddock separator trawl and others, fishermen want more collaborative research to do stock assessment science. They'd like to have these, side-by-side research trawl vessels going along to ground truth, the independent trawl surveys. And just as another example, I think, there's 2 levels. There's kind of a lower level where they're not necessarily having a full-blown research project, but fishermen can also act as co-managed cooperative research participants by agreeing to have more frequent reporting at sea, to take new technologies like electronic monitoring, electronic reporting, to integrate haul by haul information that gives you that level of temporal and spatial information that can really do interesting things like develop robust catch per unit effort index models to really understand where the footprint is of these species, especially in an environment now that's rapidly changing. And from year to year, I think it's clear in the Northeast that climate change is having a significant impact on the movement of these stocks. We need all eyes and ears on in the water as we can at this point.
And talk a little bit more, if you would, about what you were suggesting with more transparent quota
Sure.
leasing.
Yeah, so, as a sector manager, that was really one of the big issues that I faced is, this system of tradable fishing rights, while it produces efficiency in the system, can also lead to inefficiencies if that level of market data isn't available to everyone. I'll give you an example. Imagine trying to sell your house in an environment where you don't know any of the prices of the houses that sold around you, but the buyer that comes to buy your house does, and he offers you anything that he wants. And you're likely to accept that because you don't have any other information to know what those comparable sales are. That's generally how it kind of works in the permit and the quota trading market through disparate emails, different types of
So
communications.
who's actually pushing to keep the leasing system opaque?
So I think there's a combination of factors that, it starts from very strict data confidentiality rules. The government has certainly been
Right.
slow in trying to address those and pushing for, their role in trying to develop more transparent markets. I think obviously there's certain players in the industry who are benefiting from, disproportionate amounts of asymmetrical information.
Okay, can I ask one more
Sure,
question?
sure.
The other thing that I just wanted to get you to comment on, because it is a good news, one of the few bright spots we've got in New Hampshire and northern New England with respect to fishing, and Senator Ayotte mentioned it, and that is the business model that you're both involved in the Community Seafood Initiative. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about how that works and the positive aspects of that you've seen. And Jamie, you're the treasurer, and Josh, you're one of the co-founders, so I don't know which one of you wants to address that.
Sure, I'll start first. So as you mentioned, that's certainly been a highlight of my experience working in the industry, and really just because of, the level of innovation and collaboration that it took to start it. Jamie was there from the beginning helping me create it. It's a cooperative of New Hampshire fishermen, but it's also a cooperative of the New Hampshire public, where we allow the local New Hampshire public to become shareholders of the organization. So not only do they pick up a share of fish directly off the boat, so they're getting the freshest, best fish that's available, they can also invest in the organization as a stockholder. And they have a seat on our board of directors as a consumer stockholder. They collectively make decisions with our fishermen and about, how we're going to develop our business for the following year, what species we'd like to offer. And it's been very beneficial that way. And so in over 3 years now, we have 18 different drop-off locations throughout the state. We're working directly with 15 different restaurants who are sourcing ground fish directly from New Hampshire boats. It's been extremely successful in highlighting, our traditional fishing community and giving them a voice, I think, that maybe they didn't have before.
Thank you. Anything you want to add, Jamie?
Well, from the fisherman's standpoint, it's been enjoyable to watch the local consumer enjoy the product that the fishermen harvest, and have the availability that wasn't always there in the past. And it's been a great pleasure to make that availability possible.
Well, thank you all very much, and it's nice that we have at least one positive, we can end on a positive note. And I want to thank all of you. It's clear that we have a lot of work to do here to help address some of the concerns that exist within the industry, and I certainly intend to work with this committee. I know Senator Vitter does as well, and in other Senate committees to see if we can address some of these issues in a way that's more positive. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.